morning and welcome back to WCBS. I'm your host, Mrs. Myers. It's been a crazy handful of years, so we at WCBS wanted to take tonight to get our audience up to speed on what's what in America. To help us with that, we have our culture correspondent, Mr. Groh.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for being here. Mr. Groh, when we entered the war, we were a nation that was still fighting off the Great Depression. How has our situation changed over the past handful of years?
Well, first of all, I think it's safe to say that we are no longer in a depression. In fact, quite the opposite. We weren't quite sure how everything would shake out at first. After all, our economy was geared towards making war supplies, not civilian goods. So it was never a guarantee that the transition would be smooth. But as it turns out, it was.
Really? Why is that?
Americans are through with their wartime rationing habits, and they're ready to let loose a little bit, enjoy life. Americans are ready to buy things, show off a little bit, celebrate the freedom that we secured in winning the war. You see, spending money on nice things is what separates us from the communists. We have a great way of life here, and we all should stick to the American way of doing things. You're either with us, or you're with the communists.
So what have Americans been buying the past few years now that they've been able to treat themselves?
Oh, anything they want, really. Houses, appliances, clothes, and especially cars. In fact, the automotive industry saw a huge boom after the war. It makes sense, though, since pretty much nobody has been able to buy a car since 1941.
Oh, like that car from Greece. Go Grease Lightning. That reminds me, let's take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor, Jeep.
It wasn't too long ago that Willie's Jeep helped us show Hitler what for. Well, now you can drive a piece of that patriotism and thank your country by buying a Jeep. If you're really a man and you're really an American, you'll love its four-wheel drive, its open-air feel, and the ability to go anywhere and over anything. What's that you say? You have a family? Not a problem. With our Willie's wagon, you can fit the whole gang in the Jeep and go on adventures. Still not convinced? Well, how about a pickup truck? You can combine the four-wheel drive, reliability, and utility of a Jeep and a pickup truck. With our diverse lineup, there's no excuse not to buy a Jeep. In fact, at this point, if you still don't want a Jeep, you're probably a communist, and we will find you. Come on down to your local Jeep dealership and buy yourself any of the Jeeps. What a wonderful vehicle. You know, my neighbor just bought one, so I think I will too. After all, I don't want to stand out too much. Plus, that model is practical. The whole family can fit in it. And that's important these days, since a lot of our boys are coming back from the front and starting families of their own. It's actually resulting in a boom of babies.
I heard there were 4 million children born last year. Crazy.
Yes, lots and lots of babies. Dr. Benjamin Spock is amazing. His book, The Common Sense Book of Babies and Childcare, is a bestseller. Did you know he sold 500,000 copies in just 6 months?
Yeah. You would bring up that book.
Huh?
Nothing. Let's move on.
What's more is that the Federal Housing Administration has made it incredibly easy for veterans to get home loans, and the GI Bill has made it possible for many of them to go to college.
And where are all these folks living and going to school?
Oh, all over the country, but the West Coast, especially California, has seen a huge uptick in population growth. You see, the Pacific Front brought a lot of brainpower, manpower, and manufacturing capability to the area. As it turns out, it's a pretty decent place to live, so many of the returning veterans and their families are just staying there.
Sounds like a pretty good situation.
Oh, it's cooking. Suburbia is growing by the day, and people are settling into their new lives, not just in California, but all over the southwestern United States. This area, known as the Sun Belt, has seen some of the biggest population gains in the entire country. People were sick of living in the cold, wet Rust Belt, places like Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. They want to live somewhere warm.
You mentioned suburbia. What's life like in those suburbs?
Oh, it's a dream. Rows of houses as far as the eye can see, soda bars in every corner. People take their new cars to the drive-in movies, which teens especially love. Oh, and speaking of the youngsters, who can forget their favorite musician?
Oh, that new rock and roll guy. Oh, like the movie Grease.
Hydromatic. Ultramatic.
We'll get some overhead lifters and 4-bell quads, oh yeah. Keep talking, walking.
Comb my hair real quick, there we go. Disclaimer, what you have just heard is fake news. The movie Grease does not come out until 1978. These people must be time travelers.
Uh-oh, we've been found out. I guess the pink lady jacket was a little too much?
Darn, I guess that is what gave it away. But no, I'm talking about the king.
What king? I thought England had a new queen.
No, Elvis. He's all the rage with the kids. I'll tell you what, though, the parents hate his music. It's simply too big of a departure from the normal music. They say it promotes bad morals.
I heard it was the way he swings his hips. It seems like there might be a generational tension going on here. That reminds me, what does family life look like in the suburbs?
Oh, family life was great. There are children playing in the streets, men go to work, women stay home.
Oh, well, I'm not sure all of that sounds great, but it seems nice, I guess. Why were women staying home? Weren't they still doing the jobs they got during the war?
Well, I mean, the men needed their jobs back when they came home from the war, and what are they going to do? Stay home and raise the kids? That's not the status quo.
Well, would it be such a bad thing to break the mold every now and then?
Yes.
Okay, well then, let's take another quick break to hear from our sponsor, Ford.
Fine. Yes, I'd love to. Thanks, Jean. I'll be there. 2:00. Goodbye. You know, 3 weeks ago, I couldn't have accepted that invitation. Like so many people these days, we live in the suburbs, and Dave needs the car every day for business. When he was gone, I was practically a prisoner in my own home. I couldn't get out to see my friends, couldn't take part in PTA activities. I couldn't even shop when I wanted to. I had to wait till Thursday night after Dave brought the car home. But that's all changed now. 3 weeks ago, we bought another Ford. The new, low-priced, custom-line Victoria. Isn't it stunning? Dave has it all to himself. And I now have the ranch wagon all to myself. It's a whole new way of life. Now I'm free to go anywhere, do anything, see anybody anytime I want to. It's only good common sense. Why be stuck with one expensive car when you can enjoy all the fun and freedom of 2 fine Fords?
Today, more and more families are finding out how easy it is to become 2 Ford families. You can choose from 20 different models, colors galore, and each available with Thunderbird power, with styling inspired by the famous Ford Thunderbird, and each with the extra protection of Ford's Lifeguard design. See your Ford dealers soon.
If you're just now joining us, we've been talking about the current state of culture in America with Mr. Groh.
Hi.
Mr. Groh, before the break, you mentioned that families and their children were living their lives in suburbia. Do you happen to have any clips of what that might look like?
Oh, I sure do. In fact, check out this highlight reel that I made.
Little boxes on the hillside, little boxes made of ticky-tacky, little boxes on the hillside, little boxes all the same. There's a pink one and a green one and a blue one and a yellow one, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same. And the people in the houses all went to the university where they were put in boxes and they came out all the same. And there's doctors and lawyers and business executives, and they're all made out of ticky-tacky and they all look just the same.
So, do women actually enjoy wearing pearls and high heels to do housework? These women look very stereotypical. They can't seriously be happy with that life.
Well, women do go to college.
Yes, but we both know many go to get their MRS degree.
What?
To find a husband? What is the point of a fancy degree if they aren't going to use it?
Mrs. Myers, you seem to be complaining a lot. The suburban way of life is great. The American way of life is great. Why are you questioning it?
Well, that's easy to say because you're a man. Do you really know how women feel?
Well, I suppose I don't. I mean, can it really be that bad?
Yes. What's up with women having to always prepare the meals for men? Don't they know how to cook?
You make a solid point. I don't know, Mrs. Myers. All this talk about breaking the norms is making me nervous. Have you been talking to communists recently?
Okay, well, I think this might be a good place to end our show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you next week.